etc. Greater than extreme pride in country. So what? Greater than an race. Oof. Someone's watching too much CNN again. Greater than no expression of political disagreement allowed. You must be super scared then of the Magastapo busting your door down right now then. Corrupt is a go-to word which means, I don't understand what they're doing, so it must be criminal. When you have a clear legal case outlined and going through the courts, then you have a clear outline of corruption. When you have some rumors and hearsay about a politician doing corrupt things, you just have rumors and hearsay. Recognize the difference.
To anyone not reading the article, this is the Israeli government allowing doctors in several medical institutions to begin to prescribe it for psychiatric treatment. The US is still conducting trials before allowing this practice. Let's hope that wider use of this as a prescribed medicine gives more evidence and support to allowing this as legitimate medicine.
I doubt the validity of this comment. As a 17-year-old I drove a Volkswagen Passat like a 17-year-old only could too. I did try to push the speed limit and got to 110 give or take and the car broke. The turbo cracked, the oil and coolant lines mixed and resulted in diarrhea running through my engine.
Yes, first off you were using the wrong car, and the wrong model of the wrong car. You were using a Model S, and ASP85D without ludicrous mode, which is $40,000 cheaper and has far slower acceleration. Just because I haven't bowed to your demands doesn't mean you can just spew misleading bullshit. You can't challenge the accuracy of something else and response with intentional lying.
Sorry, before you're getting clones, we're still in the process of extracting his
Shine on Your Crazy Diamond was a great album with some songs in the middle.
I knew I'd heard this before. I'm not crazy.
Dark Side is much better.
MEMS has plenty of XP is absolutely unbearable, and sane can be useful. That seems bizarre that it doesn't have the poll itself comes out.
I get all my knowledge from YouTube. How to fix my car, my phone, my house, avoid autism, chemtrails, that the earth is flat, etc. Thank God someone actually did research.
So one big united you.
Don't want to bring politics into this, but I've recently learned that what you wrote is essentially why certain Trump people I know behave just like anti-vaxxers. It explains a lot.
Certainly makes more sense.
Who's behind the media blitz pushing Soulja Boy again, and why now? He was so quiet in the mainstream for years.
What if you have a kid? What if you have multiple kids? What if you work while your spouse stays home? Or you support your elderly parents or a disabled relative?
My bad, it's been a while. Still pretty horrific. Why do you say that? My city received like 20,000 Haitians and I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them because of their race. We're now 1% black, and interracial couples are getting more common. In fact, I dated a black girl, exchange student, not immigrant, and we never had a single bad experience together, and she said she never had a bad one alone either in her whole year, which was at the same time the Haitians were arriving.
If there's one person's vault I'd like to look into, it's his. How many incredible beats he scrapped because he's such a perfectionist and didn't like it. The extra songs that never made Yeezus, Turboga FX album with Chance, 40 songs with Kendrick, 40 with Young Thug, and Yandy.
No do goody good bullshit.
Oh yeah, just like when you posted about Kendrick calling a fan on stage and loving it and having a disturbing 3D model of Lamar in the cover of the Link, SMH.
They aren't even playing instruments. God, I will never forgive myself for actually agreeing with this shit. I was such a little contrarian shit.
Normally lounge access is paid. My company would have to buy me a membership. But it's different airline to airline.
Also about Syd Barrett's dissolution. Their whole career's mostly about Syd's dissolution.
Your comment makes me feel good about my age.
Still, he was a bigger name than Kodak's ass.
That subreddit used to be fun. It's so sad nowadays.
Greater than we were not fighting for our freedoms, we started fighting for Europe's freedom from Hitler, who owned most of the European Union by the time we stepped into freedom. Then Japan attacked our Navy base in Hawaii and we were forced to fight both Hitler and Japan at the same time. You do know that the US started fighting Japan before they went to Europe, right? And yes, Hitler would have eventually eyed the US to invade, and Japan was attacking our territory, so it's really impossible to say that the US wasn't fighting for the freedom. The Nazis were building nukes too, you know. Greater than the Japanese proved to be a much better and formidable foe than the European pansies. You know that the vast majority of the fighting in the European front was done by Russia, right? The US was nowhere near as important. Great than Americans aren't pushovers like the Europeans, and we are not afraid to die like the European mommy's boys. You're an American who disrespects the soldiers who fought and died from the 40 mostly European countries when the US asked them for help in a stupid American war. Classic. Greater than when the US was attacked on 9/11, only one country in the NATO alliance asked the US if it needed help, and that was Britain. All of the NATO countries benefit from the money that the US pays to be in NATO, but only one asked if we needed help after the attacks, that is low down. Did I mention the US was joined by 40 mostly European countries? Greater than I do not agree with the US giving 80% of our middle class paying jobs to China. Way to make up numbers. Greater than if we did not spend an obscene amount of money on our military, we could not be free because we would be taken over by another country, just like Europe in both world wars. The US had enough nukes to destroy the world several times over. Nobody's attacking them, just like every other nuclear-armed nation is practically impervious to being invaded. Spending the same as the 10 next highest spending countries is absurdly unnecessary. Nobody has threatened US freedom for generations. Go right ahead and live off of taxpayers' money from the overfunded, wasteful, and largely unnecessary US military. Just know that when you insult the people who pay for your living, all the while pretending they should thank you for freedom they would have had regardless, you sound like a dick.
They're good enough in all situations that classical Newtonian mechanics are good enough. In other words, they're good enough to fly to the moon and back. That's one of my favorites.
For me, I can't listen to one song or I'll have to listen to the entire album.
This just blew my mind. Not even in the sense that they released 3 straight masterpieces before The Wall, but in the sense that The Wall is 20% classic Floyd and 80% insufferable Roger Waters solo quality stuff.
It's important because any crime he gets away with becomes de facto legal. Also, if he ended up getting removed from office now, it would either shorten his term by 1 year or 5 years, depending on if he would have been re-elected, so we can't just assume even the amount of time he would be in office would be affected much.
Greater than no, that's categorically false. See number 1 and number 2 above. 1 is a point about continually becoming more efficient, but that doesn't go against the idea that at any given time, less input equals less output. Number 2 is true, but that's tied to our full-time, part-time laws. If we didn't have that distinction, people could more easily negotiate a work schedule they prefer without having to risk losing their benefits. Greater than cool, that's gross. We should take care of our elders. What exactly is gross about personal responsibility? Keeping mechanisms that encourage personal responsibility are independent of doing away with the mechanisms that discourage it, e.g. Social Security and welfare. But to go further, no one's going to stop you from being charitable. If you feel the elderly need help, go ahead and donate out of your own pocket. Why do you need to reach into mine, when I'm already going to pay for my own retirement? Greater than except for the insurance thing, obviously, because health insurance is a fucking disaster of a system that's costing you and me and everyone else a ton of money. I mean, I think removing the tie to employment could only improve things. Do we think that's keeping insurance costs down? If not, it would at least give us more freedom while the cost remains the same. I'm not claiming to know how to fix the healthcare system, just stating some of the forces at work on our work culture.
Pretty much all Roger Waters albums and many Floyd ones do this.
Are there any effervescing elephants in the theater tonight? Just looked it up on Spotify. I honestly didn't notice it until I had the volume all the way up and was playing Outside the Wall first and let the album repeat.
And we're positive these guys had timeless ideas of morality and justice?
I rub it off every time I walk behind it.
I finished Ulysses. I was an English major though, so it was a required reading for one of my courses. Definitely not something I would have done of my own volition.
I knew she was gonna walk down the steps. Yeah, Deagle is really a much more apt description than most would probably think. Xerox had the ring but hadn't even realized the potential before it was stolen from him.
I mean, it's Prince's driveway. A gazebo, or several, wouldn't exactly be out of the question. His estate was massive.
You clean your windshield, then spray some on, and then use plenty of elbow grease to apply a hazy coat, one area at a time. Then you come back and spray with a little water and again polish the hell out of it to remove it. And then you're set for a few weeks, maybe a month or 2 very max. Doesn't last a long time but works great at first.
Sounds like a good idea. I'm a DMV boy anyways, so I'll have to visit there sometime.
Lol, I thought you were making a joke but just looked it up. It'd still be worth it where I live, on the Gulf Coast. It'd save on potential paint damage from the sun, strong winds, heavy rain, etc.
I'm blue, da-bo down.
Hey, thanks for the support and all that, and well if the whatever you're doing cood'll go ahead of COEM to an EDN, that'd be great too.
It doesn't get much more violent than genocide, man. Just awful all around.
For this, and so many other reasons.
Luke, do you want a delicious shamrock shake from participating McDonald's only for a limited time?
I stand corrected. Thank you. And, yeah, I'm almost certain my tears are in there.
Where in Colorado did this happen and when?
Woke up to honkies sounding like me.
Simply, they have a low center of gravity. Remember the wobbly toys from childhood? They weeble, they wobble, but they don't fall down. Fans are like those. The bottom of the shoe weighs the most, so it is pulled toward Earth the strongest. Often, it is pulled strongly enough that it can lift the rest of the shoe a bit. The heavy part ends up on the ground and the lightest part ends up on top.
You don't necessarily have to claim Christianity to follow Christ. How do you think a Christian should act?
Protection is $1. Abstinence is free. My sympathy towards the parents is nil. I feel bad for the kids, but if they're fed, clothed, and at school they'll be fine. That sounds like your spouse needs a job. Good thing unemployment is at like 2%. Social Security? Don't I know it? It's always when I need to think fast and efficiently that my brain turns into a cow.
It's because we're so much more aware of the threat the more we learn. We can find out about things happening across the world in an instant. We see the world for what it is and are depressed to see it the way it is. We are aware of the looming crisis and are eager to do something, but something of this magnitude requires bold change. A movement led by the federal government that includes all of us.
Ghost Town was pretty emotional, all of KSG too.
What about a double dose of the MMR vaccine at 16 months? David Prowse isn't Scottish.
They were put on a shelf and ignored. I think chapter 2 or 3 relates McNamara's visit to Saigon, tells of traveling in insecure territory, haunting. The lies used to cover up the hazards were also related, and exactly like traveling in Iraq a year after Cheney got us into that mess. All those years and nothing learned.
Okay, so perhaps he was inspired by other people, but did he come up with the methods and conclusion by himself?
That's borderline fake news. Germany had a church tax. Whatever religion you register as affiliated with automatically received a tithe from your wages.
They were torturing, killing, and sexually assaulting indigenous people who have always hunted on the land now designated national parks because these murder squads don't distinguish between them and foreign poachers so long as they get paid.
Yes, the grade system is BS. I once buy a graded 10 Charizard card from a Mayan website, worst $300 I have spent in my life.
Now here's an outside-the-box thinker. I like you.
Well, we're stuck without a real answer then.
It's like any kind of waxing or hair ripping out. I do my legs, bikini area, armpits, nose, faint moustache, and eyebrows and I can hardly feel it.
Sorry if this doesn't belong here, I'm just shocked at this and I want to know how common this is. I ate at a small Mexican restaurant in the US where tips are expected. My server was a sweet old man taking care of all 9 occupied tables. Next to me was a table of 3 men eating and chatting. They finished eating, and I saw them each put $2 to $3 a piece down into the table as a tip and they exited the restaurant. One of the men returns, leaving his friends outside. He comes back to the table and collects all the money that they'd left on the table, which was somewhere between $6 to $9 meant for the server.
I will keep that in mind, thank you for the recommendation. Cheers. Why does this even have to be studied? My God.
It really is. I think a bunch of people saw that one study that suggested people with depression hold more accurate, realistic views of the world and twisted it to mean intelligent people are more likely to be depressed. Fucking anyone can be depressed.
They suck in the snow, constantly freezing up and icing over, causing certain spots on my window to have streaks of salt water.
Greater than not even touching on the fact that any given U.S. carrier group could destroy the combined navies and air forces of the entirety of Europe. This is an exaggeration. France has a carrier group of its own. Could the entire U.S. Navy defeat the combined navies and air forces of Europe? Probably, but not just one carrier group. The dosing recommendation for MMR is first dose 12 to 15 months of age.
Also Abbey Road, Her Majesty, cuts off one note short, which is the first note of Here Comes the Sun.
Greater than my problem is that like so many ideological protests is they don't actually have a plan. You're wrong about this. Review the platform on the Youth Climate Strike site, which features both demands and solutions. That platform refers to the Green New Deal, which is a core tenet of the U.S. student strikes. You can read about that resolution and associated strategy here. Of course, students don't need a new plan in order to strike. The pathways to a low-climate future are well understood.
Because of an infected nose hair?
I think Pink Floyd being my favorite band forever has forced me to only really listen to music by albums. It always felt wrong to listen to songs on their own. When I was in Aberystwyth in traffic, I looked over at a creek and a handful of people living in the apartments just threw the contents of their bins over the side and straight into the creek. You can do better than that, India.
Greater than Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He was full of country goodness and green penis. Wait, that's terrible. I quit.
Why don't they just put these on Windows?
Can I get these on my fucking glasses already? I've been waiting for 22 years FFS. I didn't even know this existed.
You sure about that? You know only what you wanted to know. Sheep.
Not true. The closing track off of their debut album, Bite, has some as well as far as I am aware.
Again, I clearly stated it's just conjecture from Reddit. Twice in my comment, I was just responding to the interesting new information the parent commenter brought. Same with Playing Eruption followed by You Really Got Me or the super rare Holiday followed by Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Heavy things don't hit the ground first. That's a common misconception.
Taking acetaminophen, paracetamol-based painkillers such as Tylenol during pregnancy also increases the rate of autism, ADHD, but no one talks about that either. Tylenol is reputed as the only safe medicine you can take during pregnancy, but it isn't.
One of the greatest rock operas of all time. Long live Pink.
Greater than. While you're correct in noting that Palestinians never voted for the Hamas dictatorship in Gaza, neither did they vote for Fatah's coup attempt against Hamas's legislative election victory, which ultimately resulted in Hamas's violent takeover of Gaza. Okay, what does that have to do with my point? Yeah, Hamas and Fatah are both terrible. Greater than is for your call for international pressure in Hamas rule in Gaza. Yeah, where is it? Is the intentional community. Okay with armed groups taking over and creating violent dictatorship.
Greater than. There's also a song called What Shall We Do Now? Quite possibly my favorite scene in the whole film. God, this brings me back. I used to love tripping on acid, blasting this album and all the movie. Such a mind bender.
I'm Troy McClure, and I'll leave you with what we all came here to see, hardcore nudity,
So what Magic Johnson and now this guy?
It has some of the best transitions. I remember spending hours getting gapless playback right on my MP3 player growing up just for this album. Everything flows so well.
We don't talk about the orangutan.
You agree with his album?
Cover the whole damn thing.
There was an update to the server and spawned like crazy. Most, if not all, of this game so many times before it will complete. As an engineer class, I'm trying to acquire a vehicle to move yourself.
So why are you all still on Facebook?
We are sucking it up. But at least we can now block most legislation. And election time is just around the corner. Trump is going to prison on Inauguration Day of sooner. Suck that up.
Out of curiosity, in no way disagreeing, but because I just spent a pregnancy eating all the food in the world, can you link me the diet study?
Flashlight wants root access.
I hope your kitty is well, and looking after you. They can be a great comfort.
Greater than. Now here's an outside inside the box thinker.
Man, I wish After It for $1 was real. Ranks plus ranks wiper fluid equals win.
That's because most users don't look up the proper dosages, don't know how much they're taking, and most of the time are ill-prepared for it.
Just hit up Pornhub and skip to the last 5 minutes. I had a customer ask if the Boulevard Wheat was a Tank 7 beer.
That might also explain all the door-sounding names. Doris, Dorothy, Derwin.
If there's nothing obvious on the horizon for it, there's always CRISPR anyways. It's probably going to be the closest thing to a panacea we have ever seen.
You don't have a source, that is a random person that links autism to vaccines, and also every other health problem children have based on nothing. You are the least convincing pro-vaxxer ever. At least have the common sense to link a chiropractor or essential oils certificate holder with crank conspiracy claims. Enjoy your HPV.
What song did he sample for that background? Or did he produce it himself?
There's a great deal of focus on the Green New Deal, which I see referred to throughout the student strike sites I've looked at, such as this one.
TLDR, what clashes here of wills gen wants, oistrigid skagan fishy gods, brekik tekik. Coax, ualu ualu ualu. Powwow, where the Battleries partisans are still out to Mathmaster Malachus Mike Brains and the Verdens Carter pelting the cannibalistics out of the Void voice of Footyhead, Assy Gates and Boomeringstrums, Sod Brood, Be Me Fear, Sandglorians, Save. Arms appeal with larms, appalling, killy kill killy, atoll. What chance cuddlies, what casuals aired and ventilated, what bidimetolloves induced by what tegatet absolvers, what true feeling for theirs hey air with what strong voice of false chick up. Oh hear how hot sprawled Methodust the father of fornicationists but oh my shining stars and body, how hath Fanespand most high heaven the sky sign off soft advertisement. But was is, a sef, air was suas? The oaks of ALD now they lie in peat yet elms leaf where asks lay, fell I few but will rise you must, and none so soon either shall there fast for the none shade come to a set down secular finish.
Top 5 songs: Fish, Back Like That, Woo Banga 101, Shaky Dog, and All That I Got Is You. Top 5 albums: Iron Man, Supreme Clientele, Fish Scale, More Fish, and The Lost Tapes. We Love You Ghost.
Also Journey, Love and Touch and Squeezing, City of the Angels.
It's common sense, not common sense.
Due to moving shit around to sell the house and not having my system set up, I'm only just now listening to some rap songs on vinyl and fuck me, it's even better than I thought. When December 24th hits Mama.
Barkley, I get so excited when I see a notification about you in my box. And you really are a magnet for this shit. And this one sounds like it is going to be a good one. A secret hidden train station. Fuck yes.
I did this with the Presidents of the United States of America's self-titled first album. My poor mom was probably so tired of listening to me sing passionately over top of Dune Buggy to and from school 5 days a week for what was probably at least a few months. Great, now the mirror has rabies.
Certainly worst albums he could have been playing on repeat.
I wonder how he felt when he finally turned it off.
Sure, but then that wouldn't make you any different from ISIS fighters.
Then God give the lady to Satan because this lady is ridiculous and want her to give her some deep thinking. If only it was actually a good album, then all those gimmicks would be fun facts.
For what it's worth, most public schools would recognize the indicators, behaviors associated with autism and identify the student fairly quickly.
It's definitely an album that will never be overrated. It's a pinnacle of rock music, and one that is timelessly creative and beautiful.
What's up with people ignoring science nowadays?
It doesn't output carbon though, which is the reason renewables are pushed. It solves the same problem.
With the way Twitter enforces their rules lately, anybody that Twitter or their shareholders don't like are dissenters. Asking for phone verification is one of their most unnoticed form of censorship.
I love it, find it hilarious. Yo, this eating beans, is what it always feels like.
Ha ha oh wow, imagine really thinking this. 5 more years. Greater than also installed one of, if not the most, murderous regimes in world history. You could be talking about George Washington here too, you know? Yay.
If not for that it would be perfect. Alas.
Yeah, but have you heard of Nonagon Infinity?
If your address is clear enough, India Post will sort it out through the correct PIN code post office. It increases their workload though. Just make sure you write the 6-digit PIN code legibly at the end. Labeling, PIN code, is your personal choice.
Hadn't HESRD of Finnegan's Wake. The obviously impossible to understand books I'd heard about, A Rayuela by Julio Cortázar in Spanish and Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse. And the only difficult book I've ever read was House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski.
It's incredible that there are people that believe this. Legal MDMA would be a significantly more profitable drug than any PTSD medications could ever be.
Not a suggestion, just an observation.
A lack of an escape system was directly a cost-cutting measure, more of a failed project on the whole. The shuttle never lived up to its name. Maybe if they made the original smaller design, but who knows? We'd have been better off using the Saturn 1B as a low Earth orbit vehicle, in retrospect.
Just my opinion, man. A good amount of people agreed with me. If you disagree, then just keep listening to him. IDC.
Dude kept his eyes open almost the whole way like a stray dog.
Agent Fresco's A Long Time Listening does the same thing. Incredible album.
Probably 388K is what was officially registered to enter the country, not necessarily the exact amount of slaves that were actually sold in the US. Mexico abolished slavery before the US did, not sure about the rest of Central and South America.
What's the tally? Can someone answer with a meme?
Good for Morocco. It's not the burden to carry.
It happens a lot in the West as well, where political parties or politicians are in bed with big corporations or foreign governments. We feel it a lot in Australia. Our government basically does the bidding of the US and News Corp, which seems to be the single biggest influencing factor in who wins an election. It's not our government, it's controlled by a foreign superpower and foreign corporations.
Have you considered moving out of this town?
Then go back to Ummagumma.
Man-made climate change is a hoax. Change my mind.
People doing anything to anyone when they feel it's necessary. Sheesh.
Fuck that guy. I just quit working for that cheap asshole.
The Ponce Carnival sounds like a blast, except for the whole demon hiding in plain sight thing.
This is exactly why Chester Hopperpot died. Rip code monkeys.
It's like any kind of waxing or hair ripping out. I do my legs, bikini area, armpits, nose hairs, faint moustache, and eyebrows, and I can hardly feel it anymore. Even the hair coming directly of my labia majora. There's one bitch-ass eyebrow hair, though, that I'm certain grows directly into a pain receptor in my brain tuft. That one single one is the sole exception. I have a VW hatchback and the backup camera is contained in the logo that flips out to open the back hatch, so that the camera is only exposed when in use. I'm convinced it's one of the smartest things I have ever seen in a vehicle.
Yunesh V. Krishni, Holy Hearts.
Higher educated and higher income couples delay having children too. That is a risk factor too.
I personally really like Adam Hart, Mother and Piper.
Back to the Wall album, we also have Empty Spaces and Young Lust.
Can't be healthy to play it all day, every day. Might have been his first major death.
The article does not state that the price of the painting was $15 million, nor that it was caused to increase in value.
I think it's usually in warmer climates. Southern US.
I would get Aquapel instead.
Agreed, we're both spending too much time on this, and if you're unmoved, you're likely unmovable, at least on this position. Which is fine, thanks for the interesting debate.
The French Empire 1804 to 1814 didn't control Haiti.
You have to turn it up. It's quiet underneath the accordion before the actual music starts. It's definitely there. You can verify it here, in the first 2 seconds. Put headphones on.
I always thought it said grape stand. LMAO.
16.5%, to put it in concrete terms. It was slang in California in the early 90s. Not sure how far back it goes before that. I'd look at Compton's Most Wanted, Spice One, E40, and other early 90s West Coast stuff. I'd argue that Occupy changed the national conversation about inequality, driving the theme to the center of political discussions.
That's not a public transportation problem.
And on the 8th day, God created his manager.
Hashtag THEOTHERA to NVA China.
You youngins don't know about the Miami Pitbull. Look up the song, Damn It Man, Pitbull Can Spit.
They will judge us fully. Which means we should stop. What even is the argument here? We did bad things in the past, we still do bad things today, so we should probably just abandon morality entirely and become nihilists. Nothing is bad at all, let's just throw up our hands and ignore the things that are bad.
And he's bound for New Orleans. Right on.
But if it can withstand the pressure at the bottom, which is the max, why would lowering it affect it?
Yep, there's a certain timbre or tone or something that becomes really easy to pick out. It's how I connected Veronica Taylor's Ash Ketchum to her Amelia on Slayers. Connecting her to Sailor Pluto on the Sailor Moon redub was tougher, though.
For me, it's entirely dependent on the car. Some junkers I've owned behave poorly at 70 miles per hour while others have sat comfortably at 120 miles per hour. But I get what you're saying about that comfort zone. That extra 5 miles per hour doesn't mean much if you're hyped up all right.
This is how aliens see, hear, communicate with the universe around us.
You dig a hole deep enough, you create a volcano.
I get the idea he has no idea what he's talking about.
Love GFK. Songs, Winter Wars, Be Easy, Kilo, Buck 50, and Cherchez Le Ghost. Albums, Supreme Clientele, Fish Scale, Iron Man, 12 Reasons to Die, Brown Tape, and Pretty Tony album.
And we all know what it was pointed at.
Agreed. This cyclical nature of the album thing would be interesting if the wall wasn't so long and so emotionally draining and so personally indulgent. Door Waters. I can't fathom playing this album twice in a row. Lol. Did the Allied fleet have suitable forces in place at the time? I think the land offensive would be settled by the time a carrier group could get in place.
If this isn't the right subreddit, then feel free to remove. Just had a great day at work and want to keep the good vibes coming. Make my day.
When you need something Turing complete.
Bob Geldof is so much cooler than Pink Floyd. I'm just saying.
It really is Playboy Cardi for people that like slam poetry.
I fucking need this. Where's the link?
Most of that album was filler though.
The funny part about all of this is that Juice acknowledges this judging from his Instagram lol.
Yes, he unfortunately is. He was also the romantic partner of Jenny McCarthy from 2005 to 2010.
That's the loot. Every kid on LSD ever.
I bet Jeffrey Toobin of CNN is just waiting for the last couple of chapters of this saga to conclude, and then his book will be ready go to the printers and eventually to be made into a movie like his OJ book. It wasn't rice, but I loathe that fucking inbred I need though.
What if I yelled sudo at Siri?
Why don't they make the whole car out of this?
ADECK. I too hover my hands over my deck while jacking into things, mostly socks or dirty shirts.
I actually live in Colorado.
You can't play Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 without playing Another Brick in the Wall Part 1 and then Happiest Days of Our Lives. Goddamn, you gotta play the whole album as one.
What brand would you recommend for snow?
No, not all conspiracy theories are wrong, but the ones that say the Earth is flat and the moon landing never happened definitely are.
I firmly believe that the Loadout Stay may be one of the greatest songs ever recorded.
So the project is still mostly assumed dead, but